This video will introduce you to basic data types in Python. Welcome back to our Python lecture series. In the previous video, you learned how to write your first Python program. We did a hello world and we explored our first few data types. This brings us to the next Python-related question, that is, which data types do we actually have? And Python is very nice to us. We don't need to define different data types. In most cases, it just automatically recognizes them. That's not going to be that easy next week, so be prepared. I just want to bring up the ideas. What we have here is we have integers. And again, you see, I only defined it. I don't print it automatically. Floating points. So integers, these are numbers 3, 2, -5, or something like this. Floating point numbers are decimal numbers. They have a period. We need to use the period sign, not the comma. So for all of our internationals, in particular in Europe, where you may use the comma, no, the decimal point needs to be a period. There is a difference between the integer 3 and a float 3 point. If you type 3 point, it basically means 3.000 is a floating point number. The most common data type that we actually really utilize in Python are lists. Lists are simply any kind of combinations. So we are possibly used from languages like MATLAB, a list of numbers. There's a different type of list here though, and that's a tuple. And strictly speaking, there's another type of list, and these are called strings. A string is a list of characters. We just typically write them as words, but it is a list. Like here, it's the list H, and an E, and an L, and an L, and an O, and so forth. These are the most common things to work with. Let me add one more thing here to a list. There's one thing that we can do here, and that is lists do not. So if I do here a new list, I define one, lists do not necessarily have the same data types in there. So if I do a list with an integer, a floating point number, a text or a string, or another list, this is perfectly okay too. So a list does not require that all elements have the same data type. Python is quite forgiving on this. That's sometimes useful, sometimes confusing. So now let's go to a little bit more interesting ones, and that's the dictionary. You may have used lists before. If you've done MATLAB, if you've done Excel, it's tables is a list of numbers, and often you say, oh, my first column is the name of a node, the second column is my X component of the position, the third is the Y component of the position, and so forth. So if you do this, you need to remember your convention, what goes where. Guess what? If you're collaborating with somebody, they may not know. They may assume something else and the code doesn't work. Or even worse, you don't touch your code, and in a year you need to modify it and you forgot to leave the notes. You don't know what that is. There is a nice way around that, and that's called dictionaries. Dictionaries, we create them, it's lists with curly brackets. The list entries are here. These are my list entries, but these entries are now pairs of a keyword and a value. A keyword and a value. The important part, the keyword, should be something that's human readable. So I'm using here a cross-section properties where I have area, moment of inertia, the distance to the top, the distance to the bottom. So these would be human readable things like a description for the future. And I'm going to show you a little bit how to use all those things. So first thing, how do you see them? I said you can just type it, but the clean way is to use the print command. So print C. What was C? C was a list. I can do computations and say, hey, A was an integer, A is 3, C is a list, so I can simply multiply integer times a list. Oops, but I didn't do the list. I used here an element. So for all the MATLAB users, careful, the index has two differences. They come into brackets, not parentheses. And the other thing, this is C-style indexing, it's an offset. So let's check C 3 times A. A is 3. If A is 3, we attempted to think that's our third argument, but 3 times 4 is 12. So C subscript C index 3 is the fourth entry. And the way how that works, the first one, think of this is an offset. This one is C0. It is where C is pointing. This is offset 1. That is plus 1. That's C1. That one is C2. This guy is C3. So careful. So C3 is 4. A was 3. The result is 12. And of course, we can do things, print the cross section. And this didn't work because I forgot to execute it. The cross section was not defined. Python delivered a nice error message. Name error, cross section is not defined. Now that I executed it and defined it, I can just go there and do it again, and it just plots the entire information. But there's, with dictionary, a whole lot of extra tricks. And I mentioned that the list entries in the dictionary are keywords and values. So you can simply say, give me a list of, where am I here? Cross section. The cross section of the dictionary has the method keys. It doesn't need an argument, but we are calling here a function. That means we have the empty parentheses. That means we call the function keys without arguments. So for the cross-section dictionary, give me the keys, and look what it does. It returns a list of all available keys. So that's an easy way. The other way is, how do I know what's the area of my cross-section? In a dictionary, we don't say this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, because the order doesn't matter. We identify, instead of a position parameter, we call them with a keyword. So it's the syntax, cross-section. Then we have the brackets, that basically means like an index, but the index itself has to be the keyword. Keywords are strings, so not variable names. And if I call cross-section the area, it looks into the cross-section dictionary for the keyword area and delivers the value of that keyword. Let's do a similar thing, and let's simply do a computation for stress analysis. How does that work? I should possibly give you the equation that we need here. So if we look at our equations, I have, and I'm switching here into LaTeX mode for those of you who are used to LaTeX, that simply says the stress is the force divided by area plus minus the moment times the distance to the perimeter divided by the moment of inertia. That's our equation that we have to solve here. So what I'm doing, I define the variable force and moment because that's my real input. Area, distance, and moment of inertia, that's what I have from my cross-section property. And I just program now stress at the top and stress at the bottom is force divided by area. The area is cross-section, keyword area. That's what we used up here. And then I do, the top has the minus, the bottom has the plus. Moment times C and the top divided by moment of inertia. So at that point, I compute these two. And as I compute them, I want to show that nicely. So I do a print for the stress top, stress at the bottom, and I done that with a nice formatting string, the way we've done it before. So as I execute this, I have here my nice output with the computed values. And of course, I've done something new. What was the new thing? We had a placeholder. I used just the empty placeholder before. So let's do a quick check and say, what would happen if we get just the empty placeholder for this? I do that here. I just copied it and execute it again. The empty placeholder provides the number to whatever accuracy is necessary to represent what the computer knows. So that's typically somewhere around 16 digits and a floating point number. That is not always nice for a report. I can use this extra argument here to format that variable that comes in here. So the formatting string starts always with colon. That basically means formatting starts here. The first number is how many fields, and that is, these are 12 fields. I want this as a floating point number, and that with 3 decimals. So 12 fields, out of which are 3 decimal numbers, and F says use a floating point format. I recommend look at the tutorial early on at string formatting. There are a lot of examples, and common examples are, for example, E and G formats. Let's look at this. What happened here? The E format is the typical engineering format that gives exponential form. So instead of 30.3 something, it went 3.031 times 10 to the plus 1. And G works, it tries to use 3 significant digits. If possible, G uses a format that looks similar to the floating point. If the number gets too big and doesn't fit anymore into the 12 decimal numbers, it automatically switches to the E format. So G is possibly a common engineering format that is most forgiving. F is a format when you want to have things nicely in tables. And E is the format that is the most unreadable, ugly one. There are reasons when you use it, but I actually think we shouldn't use that too often. So that wasn't too hard.